Well, happy Saturday afternoon, friends and floorheads. Time for another deep dive into another adventure site. But this is the first time that I am diving into a site that was not part of any of the Free League books. In fact, some of you may be like, what is ROOTHOLME? So if you go to the drive-through RPG and just do a search for either Lee Ironside, who is the creator. He has two sites. I assume he, but it could be they. They have two sites on the workshop as of the time of this video, and they're both good. Though I think ROOTHOLME may be my favorite overall site that I've come across on the workshop. If you've not gone to the workshop, I highly recommend it for any of the Free League games. There is a ton of stuff on there. The stuff for Coriolis is excellent, and the stuff for Forbidden Lands is really, really good. And they're all cheap. Like, for example, this adventure site, which could easily give you 2, 3, 4 sessions worth of material, is right now it's on sale for $3, but I think the normal price is like $4. And it's just a no-brainer. It's really, really good. So just go to Drive-Thru RPG, shoot for ROOTHOLME, or look for Lee Ironside. That's the creator. All right. So let's take a look at ROOTHOLME. If you've watched any of my dives before, you know I have a very specific way that I like to break down a site. And I'm going to break down this site the exact same way as I have the others. And I'm going to do it such that I'm going to do it the exact same way that I break down a site. I don't do it from the beginning to the end. I look at things in a very specific way. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's flip through. Now, one of the places that I always start is I like to look at the background. So very quickly, the background on ROOTHOLME. So ROOTHOLME was founded centuries ago when a group of forest-dwelling folks sought refuge from the blood mist. Building their homes among the branches of the ancient oak allowed them to stay safe from the evils that stalked the forest below. When the blood mist lifted, the community of branch dwelling had become well established, and ROOTHOLME, as they named their community, had expanded into a fortified village of some 50 human, halfling, and goblin souls. Over time, a forge was built at the ground level away from the combustible buildings to service the village needs, and passing travelers brought with them trade. An inn soon followed to cater for those peddlers and travelers, and the income from those two establishments enriched the village further. The future of ROOTHOLME was looking good. But you know it's the Forbidden Lands, it can't stay good. However, unbeknownst to the settlers, the hollowed oak was already home to a more sinister creature that had built its lair deep underground. Among the roots of the tree, this demon called itself Jagrol. More than anything, Jagrol hungered for two things: domination of what he considered to be the lesser creatures of the world, and blood. So that gives you an idea of what we've got here. We've got essentially a giant tree. That's the entire adventure site, which really can be something very fantastical that your players may have never seen. You can also gives you a tremendous amount of freedom where you can put this site. There are a ton of forests and deep forests on the map for Ravensland. You can drop this in here. It mentions that you could adapt it to Bitter Reach. I think you could adapt this to Bitter Reach, but I feel like that's a little bit square peg round hole. I think this truly is better in a more temperate environment. In fact, I'd even have a hard time putting it in with Blood March. I think this is meant for Ravensland. Let's talk about the Dark Pact. Jagrol had been drawn to the giant tree long ago due to his affinity with the dark forests and woodlands, bowels of which would later become ROOTHOLME. He made his lair and waited. When the first settlers arrived and sought refuge from within the mighty tree, Jagrol was quick to make contact with their leader. He persuaded them that only he could save them from the blood mist, and he offered them his protection provided they pay but a small price. On the night of every full moon, a blood sacrifice be made to quench his hunger. And if they did this, he would allow them to build a community in his tree, and he would use his powers to assist and protect them. So we have a demon deep down below the tree. We see the demon has made a pact with the leadership to say, you're going to stay safe here as long as you give me my blood that I need every full moon. All right, so that gives us the background. The next thing I like to look at is what are the different ways that are suggested for getting there. Now, if you've listened to me at my other sites, sometimes I'll enjoy these as ideas, sometimes I don't. The ideas here are pretty good, though. The first one is the haphazard halflings. Askin and Bevan are two halflings from Rootholme who've been sent by Pa to buy iron ingots from the nearest dwarf settlement for Pa's forge. On their journey back to Rootholme, however, trouble struck and their skittish pony, Bramble, has become spooked and run off with their cart, causing both halflings to be thrown from their seats. A trail of ingots can be found lying in the pony's wake. The PCs come across the two halflings as they are picking up some of the spilt ingots and arguing loudly as to whose fault this all is. They would be very appreciative towards anyone that could assist them in their finding their missing cart for them. I think this is a really good intro, right? It feels like a little bit like a random encounter maybe, and gives a bit of an organic introduction to drive your players potentially to Rootholme itself. The next one is called Carried on the Wind. Whilst they're traveling through or near a forest, the PCs hear an awful din carried in the wind. As they draw closer, they realize that the noise is someone singing badly. The wailing is so soon accompanied by the delicious aroma of home cooking. If they follow their nose and ears, the PCs will eventually reach a large clearing and within it Rootholme. So another way for them to reach there. One second. Sorry about that. All right. So legend. As you know, if you've watched the other videos I've done, legends, I've never used a legend. I tend to feel like they give away too much information, but I will say, and this is surprising considering this is one of the first non-sites by Free League, this is one of the workshop sites, I kind of like this legend. So let's look at that real quick. In some parts of the forest, no kin have ever set foot, and it was in such an area that many centuries ago a mighty oak tree grew to gigantic proportions. Some say that Hem herself, planted the tree as a gift for her husband. As years have passed and the world became more populated, the oak tree was eventually discovered by pioneering woodsmen. So impressed were they with the tree's stature that they initially worshipped it as an aspect of Hem, and lavished it with gifts and sacrifice. When the blood mist fell, these same woodsmen took refuge among the branches, and over time, the community grew to what it is today, known as Rootholme. Warm food and warm welcome await those that are travel to the woodland paths today. This is a pretty good legend, and I could see myself paraphrasing this as an actual legend given to them. On there. I don't feel it tips too much. It does mention sacrifice in passing, but I think this is good. Now, on a site, the next place it gets into is the locations and the map, and of course, all the different areas that they can go to. It's not where I go next. I still need a little bit more context to be able to truly understand which each of these locations mean. So where I go next is I skip past that. I'm going to come back to it. And I like to look at the NPCs and the monsters. Incidentally, I love the art in here. I'm not real sure who did the art or where the art came from, but I think it's delicious and fits it and gives kind of a neat flavor to it. So let's talk about the main NPCs that are involved. First off, we have Ma. Now, Ma is a halfling. Pa is also a halfling. I have hinted to my players that there is halfling communities that are around or are close. And this is what I was hinting at. And I think that the halfling aspect of this site has potential for you as a player. If you've got a halfling player character, then this could be a draw. If you do not have a halfling playing character and maybe they've not even encountered halflings yet, the mystery of this kin could potentially draw them there. So let's talk about Ma. She's a halfling. Known throughout Rootholme as Ma is a very influential individual. As a steward of Rootholme, it is her duty to maintain its defense and look after its citizens. She also serves as a priestess of Hem and coordinates religious ceremonies during holy days and sees to her flock's spiritual needs. On top of this, she also runs the root cellar inn, which is most often found fussing and busying around travelers and guests in Rootholme. She's aided in all of this by her husband, Pa, and her daughter, Nook, who she loves deeply and is very protective of. Nook is, we're going to get to Nook. Nook is pure gold. I think we can have, in the same way we have fun with the dwarf in the Hollows, we can have a ton of fun with Nook here in Rootholme. Nook, who she loves deeply and is very protective of, Ma's friendly, mothering halfling with rosy cheeks and a cheerful disposition. Now, when your players first get introduced to Ma, I think playing up her friendliness, her openness, her maternal instincts, and her desire to take care of your players, to make them feel at home, very, very important for this site to have the impact it needs to have. Depending on how you've been running Forbidden Lands, I know my players, whenever they encounter something good, they get real suspicious, and they might do that here, and I'm fine with that, but well, let's keep going. Ma is also a descendant of one of the foundling woodland folk, and she has been handed down the responsibility of herald to Jagril, so she's aware of the demon, the demonic protector of Rootholme. This is a responsibility she takes very seriously, and though she abhors violence, she sees that the monthly sacrifices are necessary evil that benefit the entire community. As time has gone by, the callousness with which she carries out these duties has become second nature to her, and I think that's important. She does not see herself as evil. Serving this demon, sating this demon, in Ma's mind, it has become just the same as, we need to clean out the closet every month. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of. It has seemed very routine to her. And it mentions here, it has become no more repellent to her than slaughtering a rabbit for supper. Ma sees Jagril as a demigod protector and is fiercely loyal to him. She will obey his every command to the point of death, and she will be quick to quell any threats to the demon. Very important. Ma prefers to use the outsiders for sacrifices to avoid any unpleasantness within the community. When the time of the full moon approaches, she will use her potions as innkeeper to identify potential victims. These are often then drugged, gagged, and bound and kept in the cellar until the time is right. They are then taken to the temple, paralyzed by poison, ready to appease the ever-hungry Jagril. So many layers there, so much potential there. Now let's talk about her other half. Let's talk about Pa. Pa is Rootholme's handyman and husband to Ma. He is a quiet halfling of few words with a nest of messy graying hair. A keen blacksmith and carpenter, which your players potentially could find huge value in his ability to do either of those things. Pa can most often be found in the Forge, aided by his adopted sons, Askin and Brevin, which, if you remember, are used as part of the how to get him there that we just talked about. Pa does not share Ma's love for their daughter Nook. He believes that Nook should have been handed over to the goblins as tradition dictates. So, spoiler. I don't know, it really is a spoiler because this is really in the player's guide, right? But the halflings have this dirty little secret as a kin, which is every time a halfling or a goblin gives birth, it is always twins. Both the goblin kin and the halfling kin, give birth to twins. There will be one halfling and one goblin. Tradition dictates that they give the kin that is different than the parent over to their proper kin. So if a Ma, who is a halfling, had children, obviously had Nook, so gave birth to a goblin and a halfling, normally it would be tradition for the halflings to then find a tribe of goblins and to have given Nook to that tribe. That did not happen here. So he believes that Nook should have been handed over to the goblins as tradition dictates, but tolerates the current arrangement out of love and fear of his wife. Pa is devoted to Ma, and he will gladly give his life to protect her, but he has noticed over recent years that she's become more and more cold and blasé when it comes to feeding Jagrol, and this frightens him. Again, an aspect here that even if it doesn't come out in play, you can hint at it. You've got ammo as a GM. The dynamic that's between Ma and Pa. All right. So, what I think is part of what makes this a great site, and that is this whole concept of Nook. I love the artwork here for Nook. I'm going to go ahead and just read Nook to you because I think Nook has the potential of really giving a neat sense of flavor to this site. Nook is the goblin daughter of Ma and Pa. When she was born, Ma was so full of love for her daughter that she could not stand to send her away to live with the other goblins as was their way. Instead, she raised Nook as a halfling and doted on her, teaching her all the skills of her people. Nook believes herself to be a halfling and is ashamed of what she considers to be her ugly looks. She wears a hooded mask in public to hide her face and is painfully shy around other people, though she has a good heart. Ma has taught her to be an excellent cook, and she works at the inn preparing dinner for guests. Sometimes Nook can become infatuated with a guest. Oh, there's so many good things here. Especially if it is someone exciting from a faraway place or who dresses differently from the folk at ROOTHOLME. If a guest grabs her attention, she may stalk them out of curiosity, spying through keyholes and follow them around town at a distance. Although Nook loves Ma and Pa, she hates and fears Jagrol. If she were ever to discover someone she liked on Jagrol's menu, she may betray Ma and Pa and try to rescue the potential victim. This action may well be the last straw for Pa, who will want to kill Nook for the betrayal. Wow. Like, Mr. Ironside, who wrote this, they gave us gold with Nook. Think about it as a GM, what you can do here. You could have Nook identify directly with a player that you think can lean into it, and it could become really a neat, tender exchange. They could become close. You could have Nook following them around ROOTHOLME as they stay there for a day or two, and you can just make it very endearing and cute. Or it's potential your players are going to become suspicious of Nook, undeservedly. And you also now have a tool to give your players if things get too deep, right? And it could be a pretty powerful moment if Nook ended up being a part of the rescue or the help maybe potentially that your players need. I just think that this is one of the better characters I've come across, not only in the workshops, but I think this is as good as any of the great characters we got, even in the Hollows. So hats off to Ironsides, the author, because they think they gave us some really, really good stuff here. Lazy Pragmatic says Naomi makes a perfect Nook when she GMs. I do not doubt that at all. So Naomi is a patron. Naomi's been on the channel as a player. She runs Forbidden Lands. She is not only one of my favorite people because she's just a great human being, but she's an incredible player. I need to figure out a way of talking Naomi into GMing on the channel because I have no doubt in my mind that she is a fantastic GM, and I envy you, Lazy Pragmatic, and anybody else who's had a chance to play at her table. And I bet she did an amazing job with Nook. I'm going to have to talk to her on the Discord about Nook and just kind of mine her for what she did with it. All right. Not the only interesting characters here. And let me tell you, I think why I like this site so much and why this is really the only site that I'm for sure from the workshop going to want to use. I've even put it on my map for Forbidden Lands, is because I think it captures what makes an adventure site great. We get a location where things are already happening. We have factions in play. We have dirty secrets in play. And we've got a cast of NPCs that can be engaged with by your players to make play interesting. It is not a site that depends on your players showing up, which I think makes for the best type of sites, because that allows, by not having a site that relies on the players to be interesting, having a site that is interesting on its own, it allows you as the GM and allows the table to engage with the site in any way that they want, and the site can adjust, and you as the GM can adjust to it. So Burno is another very interesting character. He's a human. Burno is a cunning and savvy merchant and descendant from one of the original founders of ROOTHOLME. He runs a small shop called Burno's Curios that sells what he describes as quote-unquote antiques, but are actually mostly polished junk. Again, pure gold. You can have an encounter where they come into Burno's and he is, going on and on about, this is so old and ancient, and you will never find anything like this. And if you have a merchant player, or anybody with any type of craftsmanship, it's just like, this is junk. Just that contrast can be a role play gold. He has participated in numerous full moon ceremonies, and which each passing moon becomes more and more disillusioned with the sacrifices. So here we have another character who's not real crazy about this arrangement. Whilst he fears Jagrol, he believes that the community no longer needs his protection. Now that the blood mist has lifted, he suspects that the demon is lying to the populace to keep them in line. Burno has gathered about half a dozen like-minded individuals, and they often meet to discuss how best to rid themselves of Jagrol's influence. He may hire adventurers to kill Jagrol if he can ensure that there are no links to himself. If the demon were ever to die, Burno intends to murder Ma and Pa and take control of ROOTHOLME, which he sees as his ancestral home. Burno is a large man with a rotund belly, the result of too much fine dining. His twinkling blue eyes hide a keen mind and a sharp tongue. So here we have the factions, right? So we have Burno wanting to get rid of the rule of Ma and Pa. We have Burno potentially giving a hook to the players to reveal to them about Jagrol and the arrangement that's in place, and quote unquote hiring the players to be able to help here. Oh, Lazy, it's a good point. You say you just need to be careful when you use the Foundry module simple calendar that it shows moon phases. You want the players to be there around the full moon. Yeah, I've never made a thing about the moon, but that's a really good point. In which case, I think that I'm not sure I'm not sure my players pay attention to the moon phases. But I don't know. I might decide how to play this, but I think it also ties to something important, which is, yes, you do probably want your players getting there right around a full moon period. But one of the big things that I think as a GM you need to figure out, and you don't have to figure this out beforehand, which is, are they going to be told about Jagrol? Are they going to discover and hear about Jagrol? Or are they going to find Jagrol? And those are all different things. And the site leaves it open, right? So they could end up going down there and being surprised that there's a demon down there. They can be told by Burno about the demon. So you just need to play it out, right? And decide how you want to handle that. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. Okay. Yet another great character, and not to mention again, but great art. Cornelius. This pompous minstrel has made his home in ROOTHOLME and spends most of his time in the inn. There he will gladly drink his days away if he has the money to do so. He sometimes earns his keep by performing at the inn, though his performances are often off-key due to his drinking habit. Cornelius is a narcissist and truly believes himself to be handsome and talented. Again, role play gold. We have that contrast, right? We have the reality of who Cornelius is versus Cornelius's own perception of it, which I think as a GM can really just engage your players and really can get a lot of mileage out of it. I think more and more people I talk to that run the Hollows talk about how the players just latch on to the entire dwarf, but I'm not a dwarf aspect in the Hollows. And it's that contrast that attracts your players, that immediately your players will find things like this interesting. Let's see. The truth is he is a washed up alcoholic with very low moral fiber and a selfish attitude. He has recently heard whispers that Berno is meeting others in secret and that rebellion is in the air. Cornelius has, so far, kept his information to himself and wants to see how things play out before he decides which side to take to better things for himself. So again, another potential way to reveal to your players the two factions in play that leads them to Berno. Depending on how your players engage here, you can decide how you'll reveal this to them. What you could end up doing is revealing a rebellion that is in process, that there are those that wish to unseat and dispose of Ma and Pa. How do your players attach themselves to Ma and Pa? Do you find them to like Ma and Pa? Then these could become the quote-unquote enemies or the threats that are involved here. Maybe they bounce off Ma or Pa or both of them. In which case, maybe finding out through Cornelius or maybe through Berno what's going on here could potentially make them part of that other side of it. It's also possible where players are like, this is none of our business. We want to stay away from it. All right, the last piece is about Jagroll. Jagroll's a demon. The monster attacks from a demon design standpoint. I think Jagroll is very interesting. A couple things to note. Jagroll's armor rating is 8. That's pretty high. His strength is only 5. He's got manipulation 4 for skills. He's got this parasite rule. By touching its victim, the demon can take control over it. This will work as the puppeteer spell with power level 3. Now, keep in mind that it's a spell, which means Jagroll will cast it successfully. There's a resist available to the puppeteer spell, but that makes things very, very powerful if they were to encounter him directly. And then it has weakness to fire. Phenomenal monster attacks listed here. This is a well-designed monster. All right. So now that I understand the background, I understand the legend, I've now gone through the major characters that are involved here in ROOTHOLME. Now keep in mind, this is a full community. This is a village. So be ready to create other NPCs. And here's another little GM tip for you, one that I picked up a long time ago, which is have some names handy. So I always, when I'm playing, have like 10 names that I've got listed that are not created for anything that I can grab at any point in time and allow me to create and fill out an NPC on the fly. You'll want to do that here with ROOTHOLME, or don't be afraid to spin up maybe 4 or 5 other full-fledged NPCs that might be involved that could be interesting. There's a lot of possibilities here in ROOTHOLME because it's a full village. So even though we've only talked about a handful of the inhabitants, the key NPCs, I think part of what's going to make this successful as a site for you is if it's really presented as a fully fledged village and in a very fantastical on the branches of trees sort of way. So let's go through and talk about the events. I think the events here are good. The peddler and the spy. The adventurers arrive in ROOTHOLME does not go unnoticed by the merchant Berno. He sees their arrival as a possible opportunity to overthrow Jagroll and topple Ma and Pa. He will initially make contact with the adventurers, maybe buying them drinks at the inn to sound them out and see what they're made of. If he thinks that they are up to the task, Berno will invite them to a secret meeting in the back room of his shop. There he will make them an offer, paying them 1 gold piece each if they agree to aid him in his rebellion. He will not initially tell them about Jagroll or the monthly sacrifices for fear of frightening the adventurers away. So here's a possibility of presenting the factions, presenting their battling against each other while not revealing the dark secret yet. He hires the adventurers to spy on Ma and Pa and report back to him. In doing so, he hopes that they will discover the demon for themselves and link it to Ma and Pa. And it should be an easy matter to persuade them to rid the town of this evil and its 2 bewitched halfling pawns. Here is because one of the challenges you have is if you want your players to discover Jagroll, you need them to be curious. You need them investigating things. And this is an easy way to lead them to discovering Jagroll, and that is being hired by Burno. Second event, every nook and cranny. Nook takes a liking to one of the adventurers and becomes fascinated by them. She starts to follow them around town, always at a distance. This suspicious behavior may unnerve the adventurers. If anything were to happen to Nook, Ma would be furious and seek vengeance upon whoever hurt her daughter. If, however, the adventurers become sacrifices for Jagroll at any point in their stay at ROOTHOLME, Nook would try to free the adventurers she is fascinated with and attempt to get them to safety. If Ma were to hear of this betrayal, she would be devastatingly heartbroken, and Pa would likely dispose of Nook in the aftermath. Powerful stuff and a ton of potential. The Festival of Hem. It's festival time at ROOTHOLME, and the temple is decked out with an abundance of flowers and berries. Wooden benches are dragged into the temple area, and food and wine are brought out for everyone to enjoy. There are musicians and dancers, and all who attend are draped in garlands of flowers. This is an incredibly powerful, fruitful event that you can make as a big deal for your players, and this could help with the timing of things. The festival is in the aid of Hem, and as the evening draws in, a pig will be sacrificed in front of the statue. This will be the evening's dinner, and the hog roast will be set up within the temple for all to enjoy. Cornelius will no doubt be there singing and drinking, and if he gets too deep into his cups, he may let slip to the adventurers what he knows about Burno. What the PCs do with that information is up to them. However, if Ma and Pa get wind of Burno's betrayal, they might hire the adventurers to get rid of him once and for all. Again, all different ways that your players can engage with this site. Jagroll does not enjoy the festival, but knows better than to interfere with holy ceremonies, so he keeps a low profile throughout. All right, now we're going to start getting a little dark here. The root of all evil. The night of the full moon looms over closer, and the village must find a suitable sacrifice for the demonic protector, or face losing one of their own to Jagroll. The adventurers are outsiders and prime pickings for the next ceremony. Ma will attempt to lace their meals with one of her poisons, or failing that, Pa, with a few assistants, will try to kidnap the adventurers while they sleep. Anyone caught will end up gagged and bound in the cellar, where they will stay until the night of the full moon. When the time comes, the captives will be carried to the temple, where nearly all the village will have gathered to bear witness. Jagroll will then attempt to use his parasite ability to get each adventurer to enter his lair for consumptions. Should the adventurers escape and a fight break out, the majority of the villagers will be terrified and will run amok, screaming and shouting. A few brave souls may try their luck with the adventurers, but Burno will see this as an opportunity to take control. He and his conspirators will let the adventurers deal with the demon while he seeks to kill Ma and Pa. That is an incredible potential encounter as a finale for this site. I like the idea of the adventurers, your player characters being captured. I think I would isolate it to just one of them. I would want it to happen pretty quick within the time of the actual sacrifice happening. I don't want there to be a ton of time where one player is kind of taken out. But I think I would isolate it to just one player, maybe absconded with at night. for an opportunity. Watch for maybe a chance for them to have a wonderful, joyful night with much drink, maybe in the inn in one evening, that will really give Ma as the opportunity to take care of this. I haven't worked out exactly how I would handle this, and I think that what I need to see happen is I need to see the players engage with the site. I need to figure out how they're going to go in here. I don't think I can plan too far ahead here, but just like any good adventure site, I've got the tools that I need to be able to, go all whatever different paths are there. Okay, so now we've covered all of the events. So now let's take a look at the different locations real quick. So this is the last thing I do. And the reason I do that, when I'm taking in an adventure site, either one from the workshop or one from the books, is now I can look at these locations and really understand each location, because I understand the players, I understand the events that are happening here, the things that could be happening through the events, I understand the legends, the background. I've now got full context to be able to go through step by step and be able to look at these locations. So let's look at them together. We'll start with the Root Cellar Inn. So that's where Ma, Nook, and Cornelius are going to definitely be there. You potentially could have Burno there. I would portray this location, and this is location 1. You can see it on the far left here. This will be probably one of the first places that our players come across. I am definitely going to introduce Nook here. I definitely am going to really play up Ma in that as an incredible host, very maternal, very kind, welcoming them to the town, telling them, please come, we hope you enjoy yourself here, stay as long as you like. We would love to have more trade with the outside world. What tales do you bring to us? I want this to be and always a safe place. And in many ways it is a safe place until Ma makes the decision of potentially using one of the players as a sacrifice. Okay, the second location, that's the Forge. That's on the other side of at the base of the tree. The Forge is where we find Pa, as well as the kids, Askin and Brevin. I'm going to really lean into Man of Few Words with Pa. Pa, I think, will engage any craftsmen we have there. So if you have any blacksmiths among your party, Pa will engage there. Pa will definitely, help repair, potentially sell them items that could be coming from a blacksmith. There's nothing that I'm going to put into the Forge as a location that's going to reveal anything untoward, other than Pa may not be the friendliest person, which is in contrast to Ma, right? We got the two kids, Askin and Bevan. All right, so number 3 is the cage. A rickety looking wood and iron cage is used to hoist people up and down the tree. This is the elevator. It looks very unsafe, but the locals seem to trust its use. A squeaky winch operates the contraption from above, and a wooden plaque inside the cage reads, "Please pull rope." So this is how they get up and down. We can see that this is usually Gostrin who is operating it. Gostrin is a brute of a human, operates the winch, which is a bulging muscles allow him to do so with ease. He's devotedly loyal to Ma and Pa, who he idolizes, and will be given life to them if necessary. I will definitely present Gostrin as a monster of a man. Okay, the gatehouse in the upper levels. These are the passage into the hollows. It has no doors, but has a portcullis midway through. This is normally left raised, except when under attack. The guard room has also been carved from the passageways, and it is from here that the portcullis can be operated. Walking through the gatehouse brings you into the inner hollow, where the majority of the townfolk have carved their homes from the trunk of the tree. I love this concept of going inside of the tree past this portcullis and essentially having, and you can see this artwork on the right-hand side, these apartment buildings that are built inside this giant tree. It's going to be critical that when I'm describing this tree, that the true grandness of this tree is revealed. This is literally the inside of this tree that lines it with apartments. where people are living. You've got Burno's Curios, which is where Burno runs his shop. We already know what we're going to do down there. We get to 6, so let's take a look at here. 6 is when we start getting into headed down, right? Getting closer and closer to Jagrol. So it's 6, the down below. Inside the hollow tree, spiraling steps have been carved into the trunk leading from the gatehouse down towards the dark below ground level. Doorways belonging to many homes exist on the staircase in the upper levels, but these become less common as one descends further downward. Below ground level, there are several passageways leading off from the stairs into burrows into the dark earth. So here we've got militia guards there. This is really kind of the heart of Rootholme, where people are living, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's go to 7 is one of the offshoots on the left-hand side here. This is the cellar. The cellar is accessed from the inn above via a locked trap door and is used as a storage area for the community. Then we have the den, which is on the other side. The den, the smell of wet dog wafts through the air, in which this was once a natural wolf's den dug from the root-covered earth. It has since been enlarged, and an iron gate bars the entrance to the down below. The den exists a little way from Rootholme, and the carved mouth is partially hidden among roots and boulders, and that's how it gets back to the surface here. You can see on the far right-hand side. There are wolves here. The den is where the goblins of Rootholme keep their wolf pets and monsters. They also serve as handy guard dogs and deter anyone attempting to gain access via the den's entrance. The iron gate that leads to the down below is not locked and serves only to keep the wolves out. Keep in mind, we've got a mixture of kin here. So when you're talking about Rootholme as a group, it's not just halflings. It is humans. It's going to have goblins there. I would also probably have elves as well. All right, then we get to the Warrens. That's 9. Down here, halfway down below, right before we get to 10. Let's talk about what the Warrens is. Several natural passageways lead off from the central stairway dug out of the earth. They lead to a cramped network of chambers where the majority of Rootholme's goblin population make their homes. So this is where we find the goblins. Now we get to the temple. So the temple is going to have villagers here. Let me talk about the description. At the bottom of the hollow, the stairs end in a large open-air chamber, dimly lit by the sky high above. An earthen dais dominates the room with a statue of Hem garnished with woodland flowers and offering gifts taking the center stage. Roots that hang from the ceiling are intertwined with garlands of flowers and herbs, giving the area a pleasant floral aroma. The floor and the walls of the chamber are a tangled maze of roots and sometimes seem to move off on their own accord, a trick of the shadows. So if our players get down there, either as part of the festival for Hem or they're sneaking down on their own, this all looks perfectly fine. All right, this just looks like a tribute and an idol of Hem and a place to worship Hem. The temple serves as a place of worship and a meeting area for large gatherings. Offerings to Hem are placed on and around the wooden statue, and garlands of flowers decorate the chamber. On a night when the moon is full, moonlight illuminates the chamber, casting deep shadows. It is this time that a sacrifice must be made to Jagrol, accompanied by a much chanting by the gathered villagers. A cloth is tied around the eyes of the statue of Hem to spare her witnessing this heresy, and the sacrifice is laid upon the dais, drugged with paralyzing poison. Grasping roots then grab the victim, shaking it from its paralysis. The sacrifice then stands as if commanded and walks into Jagrol's lair of their own accord to be consumed by the demon. The entrance to its lair is hidden among the offerings and garlands that surround the statue. And when the residents of Rootholme know of its existence, no one other than Ma and Pa, or Ma, is permitted to enter. What's last is the lair of Jagrol and then Ma and Pa's place. That's ultimately the essence of the site itself. So, a couple things. One, this could be an amazing thing for your players to come across when they're going through forest or deep forest. When you describe it, I think it's key to describe it as a living village. So even though it's a tree, you need to make sure it's clear how large this tree is. And there are people and moving around on the branches. There are buildings that the branches are so large they can house shops and locations. When they go inside, they can see the apartments that are in place inside of this large tree. I think it's key to make the inn welcoming. I think it's key to make the forge a resource. And I think more than anything, you have got all the tools you need to follow your players. So my recommendation for you as a GM, one, go buy this. It's cheap. I think it's a wonderful site. And don't decide beforehand how you're going to handle this site. There's a lot of different ways in which your players can engage with it. You never know who they're going to attach themselves to, what directions they're going to go, the poking around, the level of curiosity that they're going to have. You've got hooks to use with Burno, with Nook, even with the Minstrel. If they are going to see this as passing by, and that might be what they do, they may come here and not stick around long enough. But I think that there's enough here that you as a GM can easily get 2, maybe 3 or 4 sessions of things can be very, very interesting. This could be a place that really hooks your players and engages them. All right, so that's ROOTHOLME. Again, just go to DriveThruRPG and you guys can grab it. I really appreciate everybody sticking around. I enjoy doing these. I have more to come, as you all well know. In the meantime, like, subscribe. If you enjoy talking about things related to Forbidden Lands, we've got a very active Discord community that's patron only. If you go to patreon.com, you can go to Third Floor Wars, and for $1 a month, you can come join the discussions that we're having. Tons of GM tips, tons of discussions about the live play that we do of Forbidden Lands, as well as a ton of different pieces of advice for GMs being exchanged there. It's a really great community. Appreciate everybody that watched live. And a week from tomorrow, we're going to be back with our next live play, and that's going to be for Vaesen. So for those of you that enjoy Free League, we're playing Vaesen and having a ton of fun with it, and we're getting towards the end. So you can catch up if you haven't checked it out on the channel. All right. Cheers, all. Howdy, friends. Thank you for watching. All our content is archived and organized in playlists on the Third Floor Wars YouTube channel. Check it out. And if you could like, follow, subscribe, and even set your notifications to this channel on YouTube and Twitch, we'd appreciate it, and it'll make sure that you catch all of our content. I talk with creators, designers, and experts across the gaming landscape in every episode of our podcast, Tabletop Talk. Open up your favorite podcatcher and search for Tabletop Talk from Third Floor Wars. Support your creators. They make the content you love, and it's your support that makes it happen. If you want to help us, go to Third Floor Wars on patreon.com, and you can help us for as little as $1 a month. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Take care.